Hey fellas, welcome back to another episode of DomiNations. A few hours ago, I released the German version of this video and I got some response from obvious English-speaking players who wished that I probably can do the video also in English. So, to give some explanation why I think this video is necessary. I mean, everyone is having its or his or her individual style of base building, but nevertheless, there are some very general tips nowadays more than in former times, which are important and practicable or able to being practiced in each base layout. However, you are even building your own base, no matter whether multiplayer, but more focused on World War. So we got new tactics such as the satellite scan from the space shuttle in space age and ongoing, so also in digital age, and also troops such as the commandos, paratroopers, so some kind of more alternative and less conservative troops, more about factory and airplane or airstrip, and less about the barracks, are strong today, and with the help of the museum, they are even probably being stronger than you estimate if an enemy is attacking you. Now, you are having a base and trying to defend against such an enemy. Here are in my opinion, only my opinion, 5 very central, and I do not want to say the best tips, but those tips which are able to being practiced or considered with very low effort, but having a very high output or benefit for you if you are using them. Traps are really a pain in the ass, but they can be triggered with the satellite scan, and so if traps are laying in a very stupid manner, you can just de-trigger or whatever, disarm them just with only one satellite scan. Therefore, clearly, my recommendation would be spread out and decentralize your traps. So most players and even some traps, so most players will have their traps centrally in their base. Traps always can only be in some free spaces, so they are unable to being located within a building. But if you now take, for example, your SAM batteries, or probably also the barbed wire, spread it slightly outward, or even having your SAM batteries more to the outer side of your base, you make sure that if an enemy is using the scan tactic at your base, he will probably and will with a very high chance get some of your traps, but not such a huge amount like I displayed it for you in a former attack in the World War. Especially SAM batteries it's useful to place them more to the outer side of your base because their use will nevertheless be there. They will harm some planes. Tip number 2 would be close your outer walls or some boxes of your layout. So this means that there is no gate outwards, and troops which are getting spawned are still they are still staying inside your base, and they are waiting for a hole which can be only put in the walls through troops from the enemy. So the enemy troops at a specific time will make all of the troops inside, which are locked, all of your own defending troops, move only at a specific time when probably a lot of waves have already spawned. And this is pretty confusing for enemies to attack and makes especially commando attackers attacks or attacking really much harder than with an ordinary base layout. Trick number 3 is pretty good and sufficiently combinable with trick number 2. So trick number 2 was closing your walls and having no enter or exit from your base for your own defenders inside some parts of your walls. You can decide whether only to have one box closed or probably the whole base closed. Now, if you are combining this with tricks number 3, building asymmetrically and confusing. So, I mean, having your base build-wise, even if you have some symmetrical aspects in your base, which I am personally I'm personally really favoring having some symmetrical aspects in your base, so to make sure that you have probably air defenses right around from all sides of your bases, or having no significant weakness in your base due to the fact that you have towers well spread all around. But nevertheless, even if you have some symmetrical aspects in your base, make sure that the complete base in total is asymmetrical. So symmetric aspects in your base makes the enemy automatically and intuitively new if you have probably traps at the complete right side of your base and your base looks and is really symmetrical. There's always an intuitive part which says to the attacker, okay, we saw, or I saw at the right side there are some traps, so with a very high chance at the left side and probably even at the top and at the bottom side there also will be traps. So it is more calculable or predictable for an enemy to attack at an as in symmetrical base. Making it asymmetrical makes it the enemy will have less overview over the base. Now combining trick number 3 with trick number 2 means that you have an asymmetrical base, which is having some kind of illusions and less prediction for the enemy attacker, but nevertheless has closed its gates. This is a perfect example from a player which is a good friend of mine. You can see here are some walls, some gates inside the walls, but nevertheless there are some walls, but the complete base, so the very most buildings which are spawning enemies, so spawning troops, so the very fundamental buildings which are important are all inside a closed complete gap, not a gap, closed inside some boxes. So the base is closed around the most important buildings and it does only look like the base is open. What kind of structures are really predestined to use for asymmetrical or illusionating bases are the bastions. Bastions, nevertheless, it's no matter how you connect them to walls. If you are putting a piece of wall next to the bastion, same as seen over here, the wall will definitely 100% have a connection to the bastion, even if it looks like there are some gaps inside. Those gaps are only from optical side, and the functional aspect behind is the wall is completely closed and troops nevertheless have to dig through it. Also, defenders are unable to get past these optical holes. So the base looks open, but it is quite not. So this is probably one of the very good examples over here of making a base look open, but having it completely closed, so giving a huge moment of surprise to enemy attackers. Trick number 4 is use long runways. I mean, if you have your base built, there are pieces of walls and also bastions which protect places or locations of your base from being entered from enemy attacking troops. So, but no matter whether it is a simply and ordinary piece of wall or whether it's a gate, it is for attacking troops. A piece or something inside the base they cannot enter. Only commandos can enter enemy gates. All other troops have to pass it around or to dig through it. So make sure if you do not need your own gates, use them as pieces of walls to prolong your own walls. So having the gate over here would mean the wall would end over here. But having the gate at the very end makes the wall just simply one piece longer than before. But nevertheless, there is no option even for commandos to enter the base at one of those pieces. They all have to get around or even use the gate. But using the gate will not make a very shorter way than digging through it or passing it around. So, I mean, using only the gates you really need to have a road connection inside your base. Otherwise, let those walls closed and probably not the outer. Probably have some pieces or some boxes of your layout closed, but other ones you can have on purposely being opened because troops will prefer running around, so searching for the longer way instead of going through the walls. So in some situations, it is more strategical to have your boxes closed and get your own defenders locked inside, but other aspects or other boxes of your base, it is very well okay and even strategical to have them opened and make, for example, commandos and other troops run for a longer way to pass it around. So let's come to the last and fifth trick I can give to you. We have our bastions, and bastions are pretty interesting if you're thinking about or considering having a base layout which is hard to conquer. First, bastions have a specific amount, or it's not a specific amount, a specific space inside. So only buildings with about a ground of 2 by 2 tiles can be placed inside without prolonging the bastions, which means only houses as an economic building, oil drill towers, oil wells, I don't know how they are called, as also an economic building can placed in, or cannon towers, anti-tank guns, and sniper towers. Now, if we are having placed our houses inside, that's completely ridiculous. Also, oil drill towers, because all of the troops which are getting very, very dangerous to our base, if they are attacking us, if someone is attacking us with those troops, are completely ignoring those houses and oil drill towers, and you are not having a huge benefit. Mostly because the defensive buildings around the bastion will be killed sometime, and then enemy players are simply using their planes to get rid of the buildings, the economic buildings inside the bastion without any defense, and the bastion had no sense at all. So just completely forgot about putting economic buildings inside of the bastion. What is better? To place your defensive buildings inside the bastion. But if you haven't placed your defensive buildings inside the bastion, I would also not recommend to have those bastions opened. It's better to close those bastions, because if those bastions are closed, nearly from all sides where enemy are attacking, enemies prefer, I don't know why, but it is programmed this way and it is good this way, they are preferring to dig through the bastion, then go around and kill the wall behind. So troops are not thinking logical, they are simply preferring the bastions. Destroying the bastions, relieving some rubble from the bastions, which is afterwards slowing down the troops which have killed or destroyed the bastions. So they are slowing down their own attack. Now, if we have placed some gates inside the walls which are closing our bastions, commandos nevertheless are able to sneak through the gates, kill the defensive building inside, then go out, and the bastion nevertheless had no sense at all. Therefore, I can recommend having your complete bastions closed and locked, so that you have not even a single opportunity to get inside. So no gates at the closing pieces of walls at your bastion, because no troops, if the enemy player is not using planes, definitely have to destroy the structure to get inside the bastion. Also commandos, and due to the proliferation of enemy troops, they will destroy the bastion mostly, slowing down themselves. Now, yet there is only a question about where to locate the bastions, and I would prefer locating the bastions very centrally in your base or slightly outward. If you're having them completely to the outer side of the base without any defenses around, such as towers and air defenses, it's very easy if enemy players have some seconds of rest where the attack is not that highly and speed up, they can use their planes, destroy the buildings inside, and again you have wasted some bastions. But if the bastions are located more centrally, other defense buildings or even traps such as SAM batteries are defending them, and enemies will have a much harder time to kill the bastions or even to get the buildings inside done, and mostly troops of the enemy attacker will destroy the bastion and make themselves slower afterwards for the whole attack. So hopefully all of these 5 tricks got explained that much understandable that you understood what I meant, because some of those aspects I think are not that easy to understand. And additional to this, my English is not that good. I would love to have some feedback down below in the comment section whether the content I wanted to communicate to you got transferred or communicated understandable. Hopefully you will see us soon in the next video. I will go to the museum and farm some more artifacts. I made some space and disassembled some of my artifacts, and now I will have some time, to craft and disassemble some more new ones, hoping to get some more 3 stars. See you soon.